Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 58, our autumn series roundup, plus we name our World Cup final squad to face New Zealand on Saturday. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to our midweek episode. As promised, we're going to be doing our Old Mutual Wealth Autumn International Series roundup, and of course, I'm joined by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, Andy. How are you? How's the rest of your weekend?
Yeah, it's been good. It was an interesting weekend. I know we briefly mentioned it, but you know, obviously, great result for England just to have a clean sweep again. But what Scotland did to Australia, it didn't really register properly when we mentioned it before, but it's unbelievable.
8 tries, that's huge, right? To score 8 tries against Australia is brilliant. Scotland are a genuine threat now. I mean, the Six Nations, we really got to watch out for them.
I mean, it's exciting. I agree. They are a big threat, and it will be very interesting to see what they can do. They're clearly getting better and better, and it's hopefully they're not so much a problem for us, but maybe a problem for Wales.
Yeah, we'll have them at Murrayfield, so it'll be a tough game. It'll be the first time in a long time they'll sort of not necessarily, fancy their chances. I think they might fancy their chances after what they've done. Run New Zealand very close.
It'd be very interesting to see what the bookies have them at, because it certainly won't be like it's been in past years where they, the assumption is that England will have it with ease, but that is all to come. So we shall see what happens in February, March.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird, but as soon as this finishes, as soon as the autumn, sort of the Old Mutual Wealth Series finishes and the autumn internationals, straight away my head just goes right. Six Nations. You're just looking at the next step straight away. But the autumn ones, and the point of this obviously is to have a bit of a review, see what our thoughts are. And I thought I'd start actually, because I said the last one that I was going to put together sort of my team, who I thought my match day 23, who I would have picked based upon performances this autumn. Now I've made a few, so I haven't taken into account things such as the impact of, so for example, with Hartley, I haven't taken into account the impact of sort of the captaincy off pitch. I've based it purely on pitch performances and what I reckon. Okay. So I'll go through it, and I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. So my team, my starting 15 would be front row would be Mako, Jamie George, and Dan Cole. In the row, I go Launchbury and Atoje. And my back row would be at 6 Laws, 7 Underhill, and 8 Nathan Hughes. My backs, I'd go Danny Kerr. I'd have midfield of Ford, Faz, and JJ. My wings would be May and Daly, and Watson at fullback. Okay. That's my starting 15, and then I'll just quickly shoot through the bench as well. So on my bench, I've got Marler, Hartley, and Williams. And then the other 2 forwards, I've got Charlie Ewells and Sam Simmons. And my backs, I'd have Youngs, Lazowski, and Rocco.
Okay. That's interesting. So you're going Lazowski over
Slade.
Henry Slade.
Yeah, just because I thought overall, I think both of them did fairly well, but I thought Lazowski actually really had a good series.
Just offered a little bit more. I guess they're like for like, aren't they? It's kind of, they're the same. They offer the same thing. So it's, if you're picking a team based purely on form, it simply comes down to who had the better series. Maybe maybe Henry Slade was unfortunate, because I thought he looked pretty useful at 13, but maybe he was unfortunate to play so many of his caps during this autumn series at 12, where perhaps he's not quite as useful to England.
Yeah, it's weird. So if you look at sort of Farrell, Lazowski, Slade, Piers Francis, if he's in the mix, they're what I call their tenters. Yeah. So they're sort of cover either. And just overall, Do I think Slade's a better player than Lozowski? Yeah, I do actually. But based upon the performance from these autumn internationals, I've just put Lozowski slightly ahead. I thought he had a better series. Now that may be because I expected more of Slade.
Sure. Okay, so just to kind of, we'll move back to the beginning of it then, and looking at your front row, and obviously Dylan Hartley is on the bench. Who I know that you said you haven't taken captaincy and things into account. Who is your captain?
Farrell.
Okay.
Now I know you and me have discussed this before and say why add the pressure to him. I don't think it would be. I've thought about this a bit recently actually. I don't know how much extra pressure that would have, and I think he'd thrive.
Do you think maybe like we've obviously always kind of said, well, not always, but for a while now we were saying that Maro Itoje is the obvious kind of future captain of England after Dylan Hartley goes. Do you think actually it's looking more like Faz might be the man for the job?
Do you know what? I really don't know. It could be, because weirdly enough, I think Itoje is one who probably should have sort of the reins taken off. Just be like, you just go out there, you just play rugby, you just be awesome. And where with Faz, I think there's almost sort of a part of it, like just how involved he is. You know, on his weekends off, he's still the water boy. Now, I reckon that's probably as much anything him insisting, him probably going on and saying to the guys, hey, look, watch out for this, do this, sort of almost as a sort of semi-coach.
Yeah, I quite like it when you see him. He's there. He's got his earpiece in, and he's clearly very much involved in what's going on, even though he's taking no part in the game. I don't disagree with you. I know. Well, we haven't disagreed on this in the past. We kind of agreed that he shouldn't be the guy. But I'm with you. I feel like it is leaning that way, and I'm not overly upset about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I think he could stand up to the challenge. The backs are probably not that different as is. The ones that perhaps ones to me that were perhaps closer. I've got Harry Williams ahead of Ellis Genge on the bench. I just thought Harry Williams had a better series.
Yeah,
than Genge. I mentioned last night. Yeah, sorry, carry on, mate.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to mention Ellis Genge next and say he's obviously not included in the 23. So this is not me disagreeing with you, because I actually don't think he had a particularly good series. Maybe because expectation was a little higher than perhaps he warranted. But, you know, I think we were quite excited about seeing him play. We thought he was going to bring a lot of aggression, and it was going to be really exciting to see him in an England shirt, and it just didn't happen. It felt a little bit flat, and you know, maybe that's being unfair to him. But I wonder if maybe that's simply a case of there's too much expectation being put on his shoulders, because in the Premiership, which we know is a massive step down from international in terms of the quality, and maybe it's just, you know, it doesn't translate quite like that. Just because you're doing well in the Premiership doesn't mean that you will definitely do well at international level. And, you know, he's inexperienced at international level.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a massive step down from quality. I think it definitely is from intensity. Because Premiership these days, you do have Premiership teams that are just like, look at Sarries, just riddled with international. So I think the quality's still there, but I do agree from an intensity point of view, I think the international just does add, it's that bit quicker, that bit more intense. And yeah, of course, overall the skill levels are higher. But I'd have him more of a finisher at the moment. I definitely don't think he's done enough to sort of take Dan Cole's place or Sinclair.
But you've not got him as a finisher, have you?
No, I haven't this time round.
No.
But I meant if he was involved, I would have him in that capacity.
Yeah, more of an impact player than a sort of stalwart. I mean, Dan Cole, yeah, he is that England stalwart, isn't he? He's not old, but he looks about 50, and he's just he's kind of that. He's an old school prop, or he comes across like an old school prop that offers sort of stability that you don't necessarily get from some of the slightly more flashy kind of new age props that we're seeing coming through these days. He's not a big ball carrier. He just gets his head down and does a job, and that's kind of what you want from him, and that's kind of what we've come to expect from him. And for me, I think that's something that we need in this England side. Just a bit of stability through the middle.
Yeah, I think so. And something that was interesting, sort of rewatching the match, is the Samoans were offside a lot. I mean, the ref needs to check his voicemail. He missed a few calls, and
it's another one for the website, guys. I'm actually going to start writing these down.
Please do. But he, like, having Dan Cole there were a couple of times where they were offside and people were getting held up, and Dan Cole was just there, and just his sort of presence just to steady the ship, be it over a ruck, be it to hold the ball and just hold it up a bit. And I noticed that more than I have for a while from him. So I was quite impressed by Dan Cole this weekend. And the other two, which is why I've got Charlie Ewels actually ahead of Cruz. Do I, in the grand scheme of things? No, not really. But just from these autumn internationals, I've got him ahead. I thought Charlie Ewels had a good game, made a couple of mistakes. I thought he grew into the game. What a line he took for his try. And I thought he sort of grew into the game. And the other person, actually rewatching it, I think Sam Simmonds had an absolute stormer.
He did. For me, he's just not an 8. And the problem... So I was thinking about this, and... I agree with you. I think Courtney Laws at 6 is exciting. And I think Sam Underhill offers something really quite different, really kind of aggressive in defence. And if you've got, a Courtney Laws who's a ball carrier and a Nathan Hughes who's a ball carrier, you don't necessarily need another ball carrier. You want someone who's going to put in the big, not even necessarily the big hits. I mean, he does put in big hits, but just the solid hits, disruptive hits, and put the man down where he stands rather than kind of wrapping him up and letting him gain a couple of yards and then, you're on the back foot. He kind of stops them on the gain line. And it's so valuable. And I know there's been a lot of talk, or there was a lot of talk after his game against Argentina about how, yes, he was great defensively and made about 3 times as many tackles as anybody else. But he didn't offer much in attack. But I think if you've got a good, strong attacking back row, plus the addition of your Maro Tojes, and in this case, you've gone with Jamie George in the front row, who's another ball carrier, Mako, who's a ball carrier. Actually, do you need to have another ball carrier in the back row? Maybe not.
No, I agree with you. And I think...
I digress. Sorry, we were talking about Sam Simmonds, though. So yeah, my point being that I would see Sam Simmonds, who is a ball carrier, as a flanker. I'm just not sure that there's a spot for him when you've got the alternative is to lose Sam Underhill or Courtney Laws.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can have like Laws. I think Simmonds and Laws would both need to be 6, and that's the thing. I would happily have Simmonds at 6 if it wasn't for Courtney Laws. And Courtney Laws, you were saying about ball carriers against Samoa, he showed one of the things Eddie had said to him: "I want to see you carry more ball." Jesus Christ, did he take that on board? Yeah. And he started carrying more. Courtney Laws, I think, I'm going to predict this now, is going to be our player of the tournament for 2019.
Wow.
That's an early prediction. That is a big, he's getting better and better. Yeah.
And I mean, he might take over from the Specimen. Specimen Mark II.
He could be. The Big Goose is starting to step up to the mark.
Okay, good. Backs, anything? I'm trying to think. Is there anyone missing? We kind of briefly mentioned Slade, and he's probably the only one. Oh, Danny. So you went Danny Kerr as the starting 9?
Yeah, just because I thought he'd. Just because I almost did it old school, as in you start your best player. The reason he had a better thing is based upon 11 minutes versus Australia, which was just pure magic.
We obviously said after that game, one of the problems that he might face now is that he's played himself in as a finisher. The impact that he brings, the fact that you can be saying this about him off the back of 11 minutes of game time. Against Samoa, I felt like we missed. I mean, to be fair, actually, Ben Youngs came on and he offered impact, but it didn't feel like it was quite the same. I felt we missed Danny Kerr's impact because he'd been on the pitch all the way through.
I agree slightly with that. And Danny Kerr did. There were a couple of times. Actually, I thought this was quite harsh. There was a time when Mike Brown made a mistake, and then he passed Lazowski, who just passed straight away to Kerr,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, he should have made that pass sort of flat or something." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Lazowski literally didn't hold on to the ball. He just flicked the ball across. It was. I actually think that was Danny Kerr's fault. I think Danny Kerr had overrun just slightly.
Yeah.
And that I don't think Lazowski could have done any more in that position. There was one other instance I saw on replay as well where Danny Kerr was almost through and it was just a knock on. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the most favourable of passes for him. But Danny Kerr, and this sounds like I'm having to go at Danny Kerr, not at all. Danny Kerr is such a threat. Like, I think more so than Ben Youngs. I think Ben Youngs and Danny Kerr are just both awesome. And I love having them both there. And, you know, I probably would typically, I get starting with Youngs and then bringing on Kerr because I think it's just brilliant. But to me, at the moment, and there have been times where it's been the other way around, but at the moment, Danny Kerr adds more threat and adds more sort of impact. If I want somebody to come on and change the game at 9, I'm going, Kerr's my go-to.
But then you're starting him, so you can't do that.
I'm starting him because I've picked this team. Yeah, because you can still have threats from the start.
Well, yeah, no, okay. I see where you're going with it.
And I haven't.
They're kind of much of a muchness, aren't they? Like, it doesn't really matter which way around you play it, as long as you're playing them both.
Yeah, and this team, I must admit, I haven't necessarily picked based upon a starter finisher position. I've probably picked this. The starting 15 I've picked because I think they've been the best 15 in their positions. Mm-hmm. I haven't necessarily picked it tactically for a specific match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Okay, well, so that's an interesting kind of look at this autumn international series. We've actually had another review. The name Cap TRJH. It sounds like someone's just dropped their fingers on the keyboard there, but Cap TRJH says, "Cheers, guys." I'm sure there's meaning
behind it.
Interesting listen. Thanks, guys. Enjoying the podcast. So, question for you: without injuries, who would be your World Cup team if the World Cup was next week?
Jesus Christ, that's a good question.
So I thought, well, you know, we've done your autumn series team, but of course there are injuries. There are key players, key positions that are not being, you know, people are not available for. So why don't we do that now and just see the difference between what would we have if we could pick, you know, we could pick anybody. And we were playing the World Cup next week.
So firstly, Cap TRJ, thanks very much for writing in review. Massively appreciate it. And that is a great question. And you know what? It's not probably caught me cold because I often tinker around with that, and I probably have done for the last sort of 6 months. Right, so without injury, so we've got every English eligible player available. I'm assuming the same.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, exactly. So,
and what's the answer? What are we looking at? A match day squad?
I think let's do.
We're saying a World Cup final, a match day squad.
Absolutely, World Cup final, match day 23, taking into account, you know, what we want on the bench from an impact perspective and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if we're Eddie Jones and you know the World Cup final is on Saturday, what team are we announcing to play that game? Probably against New Zealand.
I'm basing it now. It's a hard one because you're basing it now, so you're kind of basing it on the way people are performing now, but then you've got to take into account people who are injured and assume they'd be performing.
Well, I guess how they performed
normal ability.
Yeah, how they performed before they were injured. Add that to how the current players are perforing now. So let's start.
I like this. Yeah, I like this.
Start in the front row. So the props for me, I think we've probably got it in what you've said already, which is Mako and Dan Cole. I think Mako Vunipola first of all straight in.
Done, yeah.
And I think Dan Cole, for the reasons we just discussed, to start, because I just think he offers that kind of that extra stability, you know, that experience, that ability to maybe just help, you know, as a senior player with a lot of caps, just the experience I think is valuable in a World Cup final situation.
So I find it hard to argue with that. In my head, I had could Carl Sinclair be there, but actually I would So I would have, I find it hard to argue starting with Cole and have Sinclair's and the impact on the bench.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. Okay, so hooker. Obviously, this is quite a difficult one because I get why you've gone with Jamie George in your autumn series choice, but you've got Dylan Hartley, who I think's had a very good, he's had a really good series. He's clearly had an incredible England career under Eddie Jones. 22
22 out of 23, yeah.
22 out of 23 wins, 21 out of 23 starts, I think it is. 2 coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Captain throughout, it's probably the best, well, it is the best record that England have ever held in rugby in terms of wins, because of course they equalled the world record with him. Can you leave him out? World Cup final, similar sort of in a similar vein to the Dan Cole argument.
Here's the question: so if you start Jamie George, I reckon you start him with the thought process that you want him to play the full 80 minutes, because Dylan Hartley doesn't, in my mind, have the same impact as Jamie George. So to me, the question is 80 minutes of Jamie George better than, say, 55 minutes of Dylan Hartley followed by 25 minutes of Jamie George? That's the question.
Yeah. It's a difficult one because Jamie George has obviously spent 99% of his England career coming off the bench, coming on for that 25 minutes, being an impact player and providing the impact that we want from him. He's had a couple of starts now. No, one start. He held the world record, and it was world record. I checked it. I was right. It was world record. Okay, so one start now, and he was good, but I didn't feel like he made the impact that he makes when he comes off the bench. But then part of me feels like the starters have a different game plan. The finishers are told to come on and mix it up, change things up, view the game for 60 minutes. And then off the back of that, that's how you determine your game plan coming on as a finisher and where to add that impact. And he's very good at doing that. It's a difficult one.
So here's what we got to bear in mind. Cap JRTH, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, buddy, but is saying if it was now. And I think now Dylan Hartley is adding that additional aspect off the pitch as a captain. And I know I said I didn't take that into account for the autumn, but I would do for this one.
I think it has to be Dylan to start, doesn't it? And be the captain.
I think so. And
we'll go with that. So we're saying Mako, Dylan, and Dan Cole as our front row. So the second row. I think you've got it right.
My autumn one's
I think they're the two. They're the two. I mean, with Courtney Laws, who we'll come on to in a moment, but I suspect we're both leaning the same way as far as he's concerned. They're the three outstanding second row, and therefore, Joe Launchbury, Mara Toje, 4 and 5 or 5 and 4. Agreed.
Move
on.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So then back row, I think that's where you bring Courtney Laws in at 6.
Yeah, I can't leave Laws out.
Yeah. So Courtney Laws is 6. So 3 of our awesome foursome, and we shall see when we get down there whether we include our 4th on the bench. But 3 of the awesome foursome starting, which is cool. And of course, Billy Vunapola's got to be 8.
Of course.
Nathan Hughes has had a good autumn series, but there's only one Billy Vunapola.
Billy. No one's done enough to say Billy's not the starting 8 right now. And I've got Underhill at 7 as well. Still, if it's now, I think I've got Underhill at 7.
I think I agree for exactly the reason we were saying before, which is that particularly Courtney Laws being the ball carrier that he is now, or that he's becoming. Billy, who is nothing, he's everything, but he is the ultimate ball carrier. You don't really need your 7 to be another ball carrier at all. And actually, I think what Sam Underhill can do defensively really balance. Is a really nice balance in the back row. So I think that's a strong back row.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that by 2019 because I think by that time Sam Underhill will be probably, if he carries on playing like he does, will probably be retired due to injury because the guy is just brave to a point of stupidity. But I love him for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we want. Just don't get injured, Sam.
Yeah, please don't.
We've got enough injury problems as it is. Just keep getting better. Keep getting better.
Yeah.
Fine. So that's our starting.
That's our starting eight. That's our World Cup final. Why am I excited about World Cup final starting eight for next week when it's not even happening?
I know. Mako Vunipola, Dylan Hartley, captain, Dan Cole, Joe Launchbury, Mauro Itoje, Courtney Laws, Sam Underhill, Billy Vunipola.
That's our starting eight. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Young's forward.
I think so. I think it has to be. I think Danny Kerr is too valuable as a finisher, unfortunately for him. Ben Youngs can finish, as we just said, but I just think Danny Kerr, I think, using the analogy that you used for the Dylan Hartley, Jamie George thing, I think that 60 minutes or 55 minutes of Ben Youngs followed by 20-25 minutes of Danny Kerr is more valuable than the other way around. And I think ultimately that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think England at the moment are too strong a team, even against the All Blacks, are too strong a team for someone else to have been pulled away from us. I don't think that even the All Blacks would be good enough to have beaten us after 60 minutes. So the finishers are going to be important.
Yeah,
it's not as if we're risking bringing on these guys when we've already lost a match, because I just think England are too strong at the moment to be in that position.
Absolutely. And this really highlights, everyone kind of took the piss out of Eddie Jones when he introduced this idea of the finishers. But this really highlights the importance of this, having finishers rather than just subs.
Yeah.
Because it is an 80-minute game. And the last 20 is so important. And so many games are won or lost in that last 20 minutes that actually your finishers are as important as your starters, but for very different reasons. So it really isn't a kind of a secondary position. Like it should almost be something you almost think, your finishers should all be sevens players.
I understand the analogy.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we drop all of our finishers and replace them with our sevens team, but
like Dan Norton just coming away.
But you know what I mean? Like that the energy, the kind of the fitness levels, and the ability to or your rugby league style. Just it's what we're kind of getting anyway out of our finishers. It's why we're doing so well, because they do have this impact, and I think that's one of the key reasons why it's so important to look beyond. They're so good in the last 20, we should play them for the full 80 because that last 20 is so important.
Do you know what I've just realised? We've been complete arseholes. Actually, maybe you planned this late from a thing. Eddie Jones, legend, well done. World Rugby Awards, Coach of the Year.
He was.
He won Coach of the Year, and as England Rugby Pod, we yet to mention that. I'm sure you probably had it down later, and I've just completely ruined that segment. Apologies, my friend.
You have. But, so a little interlude at between 10 and 11. We're going to go with the Eddie Jones. Congratulations.
It seemed the most relevant time, right?
I can't really think of a better place to have announced it other than halfway through announcing our World Cup final squad.
All right, mate. Jesus.
Awesome. It is awesome.
Let's come back to Eddie, and we will go on to that a bit. So sorry, we've gone Youngs forward.
And
let's do midfield first. We'll go.
Okay, Farrell's obviously the 12.
Faz is there now. 13. This is. So, don't forget we're saying completely injury-free. So you've got Joseph, you've got Slade, you've potentially got Lazowski, you've got Tio, you've got Manu Tuilagi. Who's your 13?
I can't look past Manu if he's fit. If we're saying fit and healthy, just the damage, the destructive capability of that guy is ridiculous. And he's possibly my exception to the rule about impact in the last 20 minutes, because I think he's someone who is destructive from minute 1 to minute 80.
Okay, so I've got my 2 out of that lot, and I'd have one starting, one on the bench, is JJ and Manu. And I agree, Manu just But
then you're ignoring
players in the world who can
British and Irish Lion Ben Teo.
We are ignoring British and Irish Lion Ben Teo, who's a brilliant player, but I think Tio and Manu are probably in a similar mould,
I think
whereas I think
yeah.
JJ offers something slightly different.
The problem that we have is that we're saying that the injured players we're looking at them, in terms of their last, how they played last time they were playing for England, and in the case of pretty much all of them, they were on fire when they were last playing.
Well, yeah, I mean, last time Manu played was 1974 or something.
Yeah, and back then he was brilliant.
Yeah,
but do you know what I mean? So we're looking at the injured guys, and we're saying that back then they were great, and therefore we include them. Whereas the ones who aren't injured, we kind of have to look at them right now. And I just think that with JJ, we're looking at him and saying he's been brilliant in the past, and so we're saying we're picking the JJ that was really good. I think that JJ, the way that he's been playing in this Autumn International Series, and it's not been terrible by any stretch, but it's not the same guy that running hat tricks against whoever it was last year and is scoring for fun for England. And I just
so do you want Manu to start at 13?
Yeah. If we're saying that everyone's fit and healthy,
I'm happy to back you on that.
I think I am saying that, but then you're probably going to say to me that Ben Teo is too similar to Manu to have him as the guy on the bench.
I was going to save that argument for the bench time. But
okay, well, let's do it then. Okay, so you're begrudgingly giving me Manu at 13 as a starter for the World Cup final.
I'll never begrudgingly give me Manu. I'll never be begrudging about that because you're right. The guy is awesome. Would I, if I'd gone for it straight away, would I have started him? No, but I would have had him in my 23. But you saying start him, and when I just see that name on the team sheet, it brings a smile. So I am happy for the midfield to be Ford, Faz and Manu.
Farrell, Tuolangi, 12-13. Love it. Okay, so back three.
Okay, let's go. Okay, I think we're both going Watson as fullback, yeah?
Yeah, I think you have to. Both on form, which you obviously mentioned, when you selected your Autumn International Series team, but also I just think he's a more dynamic player. He's long term, I think he'll be far more valuable to England, and he's the kind of guy that would rather give the pass than get the glory. And in a World Cup final, do you really want to risk a Mike Brown who you can almost guarantee 99 times out of 100 is going to take it on himself, which makes him very easy to defend?
He's become. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Hey, look, we're both going Watson. Let's. I'm up for that. So
Watson at the back.
So the wings.
Johnny May has to be in there, doesn't he? Has he not played himself in?
I think so.
So we're looking Johnny May, Elliot Daly, Jack Noel. Jesus. I think your Roccos are probably they're missing out. They're not really in the mix. Is there anyone else? I think they're the three, aren't they?
She's got May. Yeah, so realistically,
you're saying your back three is made up of Watson, Daly, Noel, May, and you've got to pick three of them to start.
Yeah,
Watson, as we said, is at the back. I think it has to be Johnny May.
Back.
I think Johnny May's got to be one.
May, because his pace.
And that makes a very difficult one because you've got Jack Noel, who's been on fire before he got injured, and you've got Elliot Daly, who was just the most influential player for England in the Autumn International Series.
Jesus. I'm going Jack Noel. You're going Elliot Daly, aren't you?
Well, you gave me Manu, so I'll... Is Elliot on the bench?
Elliot is definitely on the bench, and one of the reasons I've gone Jack Noel is not just his work rate and his overall game, but because Elliot Daly could come off a bench and cover so many different positions that I personally, and this is just my way of thinking, I think a player does better coming on into a specific position than changing halfway through a match.
Yeah.
On the whole, because I think they're coming on with that mentality. I think sometimes it must be hard. And I mean, we've all done it, obviously, at slightly lesser level, but we've all done it where, you might start the game at, I don't know, a centre, then suddenly get moved to a fullback or something. Your mindset's not quite in that. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think the key thing here is that we've picked four guys to be the three starters and one cover. And there's no question in either of our minds that these are the four guys.
Yeah. No,
I want Jack Noel to start ahead of Elliot Daly. I don't know if it's necessarily the right call, but I'm okay with it. Man is starting, so Elliot. So yeah, Jack Noel can start, Elliot Daly on the bench, and there is interchangeability. But Jack Noel can cover fullback. He did it for the Lions. Elliot Daly can cover fullback. He can cover centre. But actually, if there's no injuries and it's about impact, you've got a straight swap probably Daly on for one of the wingers depending on how they're going.
Daly could come on as a wing, he could come on as a centre, he could come on as a fullback.
So yeah, no, I think I'm happy with that.
Okay, so
that's our World Cup starting back seven.
Yeah, so let me just read out what we've got. So up front we've got Mako, Dylan Hartley, Dan Cole, Launchby and Atoje, Laws at 6, Underhill at 7, Billy at 8. 9 we've got Youngs. Midfield we've got Ford 10, Faz 12, and Manu at 13. On the wings we've got Jack Noel and Johnny May, and at fullback we've got Anthony Watson. So now we're looking at the bench. So for me, the front row bench. So we need 3 front row. Well, we need 5 forwards, 3 backs, basically. So I reckon.
Yes, we've already said Jamie George because we debated whether he was.
Jamie George, definite.
So George,
I think Joe Marler is second to Mako at the moment.
Yeah, because Harry Williams is the alternative, isn't he? I don't think there's anyone else who's really.
No,
Harry Williams might.
Harry Williams
well
comes on for Cole, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got...
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't. Either way, we're going Marler. We're going wide.
He does.
He does. I'm sure he does.
He does because Ellis Genge and Dan Cole play together for Leicester on either side, don't they? So yeah, no, you're right. Harry Williams is irrelevant. Ignore that. This is why we're so informed when it comes to the front row. It's irrelevant anyway because whatever these guys, the Harry Williams of the world, the Ellis Genges of the world, we're talking about a team to play in the World Cup final this Saturday. Neither one of them is ready for that.
Yeah, so I've got my front three. I've got Marler, George, and Sinclair.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, cool. So we're going to move on.
Agreed.
Just get the fuck away from that as soon as we can. And the other 2 forwards, I think I'd probably go Crusoe and Nathan Hughes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else could be. I mean, there's loads. You could argue a case for Rob Shaw. You could argue a case for Sam Simmons.
I think
you could argue a case for Don Armand.
You could.
You could argue a case for Jimmy Haskell.
Oh, yeah, I think James Haskell, unfortunately, he's not in the best of form. He's the first to admit it.
I think he'll be back. I predict he'll be back. So Ben Cooper, too. If you're listening, shove that up your ass.
Okay. Don Armand is an interesting one because actually we've been tasked with picking our team based on all available English players rather than squad members. And obviously, so far, it's all been squad members who are either available or injured. Don Armand's not in the squad, but we've both said, and it's not just us, it seems the entire English rugby public have said, why the hell is Don Armand not involved?
But unfortunately, and I agree, I don't know why the hell he's not involved, but I couldn't pick him to be in a World Cup side. He's too unproven at international.
Yeah, no, I think... He's our 24th man. He is cover for I think he would be if Nathan Hughes was injured. I've got
Sam Simmons ahead of him at the moment.
Okay,
I'd have Hughes.
No, fair enough. I agree. We're picking our team for next Saturday. Nathan Hughes has been playing brilliantly. He's not Billy Vunipola, but he's been doing a hell of a job at trying to fill that void. And whilst he may not have quite managed to do it the way that Billy does it, I think he's done a pretty good job. And he seems to be getting better and better with every game. So I think he deserves to be in there. And he's good cover for Billy. But with the expectation in my 23 that actually we probably won't use you unless we absolutely have to. I don't see him as an impact player.
Yeah, I think so.
Unless one of the other flankers is struggling in some way.
The only issue with having Hughes is if he's really got to be an 8. I think you could move a Billy to a 6. You could jig things about, bring a Tojo to a back row, put Cruz in the second row, depending on circumstance. But I think I'd probably go Hughes.
I mean I don't disagree with you, but I think that is the one thing, isn't it? The fact that he isn't flexible in the same way that so many of the others are.
Yeah.
He is simply a like-for-like replacement with Billy, really.
God, this was a good question. Well done, Cap.
And
J.R. Hartley or whatever it was.
Whoa. I think we do have to go with him.
Yeah, I think so.
I just think he's the one guy that offers the least kind of flexibility, the least sort of strength in depth. You look at a lot of the other front row is a separate issue, but Cruzo has the ability to play in the back row, although you probably wouldn't choose to do that. But you can bring him into the second row, and move Marrow to the back row. If Laws is injured, or Laws can go into the second. There's options.
Yeah, there are options. I think there's enough options for him to justify being there.
What, Nathan Hughes?
I think so.
Okay, well, let's move on. I don't disagree with you. I kind of want to try and come up with a reason not to, and not because I don't want him there or don't like him, or because I feel strongly about someone else in particular. But it's just the one area that I feel there's a slight cloud over whether it fits quite as neatly. But that's probably a really good problem to have. The fact that we're saying that Nathan Hughes, who's been playing brilliantly, is a question mark. We'll go with Nathan Hughes.
So just one quick question and one quick answer. If it wasn't Hughes, who would you have instead?
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know the answer to that question.
I'd have Sam Simmons instead right now.
Yeah.
But I think I'll go Hughes. But like you say, let's move on. So our forward subs, we've got Marler, George, Sinclair, Cruz and Hughes. Cruzo and Hughes. So our back subs, we've both agreed already on Danny Kerr, obviously, and Elliot Daly.
Yeah.
So there's one more.
Centre. We need a centre.
We've got either a centre or a tenter. So we've got.
Yeah,
So here are our options: JJ, Tio, Slade, or Lazowski. Any one of them is more than capable.
I guess the big question here is, what do you want in your replacement?
Yeah.
If we've decided, as we have unanimously, to pick Manu at 13,
yeah.
Do we? And actually, so do we want to go with a kind of a like for like-ish replacement? We have talked about the fact that actually Bentir offers a little bit more of a playmaker than Manu does. He's not just a crash ball man, but he's kind of more along those lines than say a JJ or a Henry Slade.
And you've got the gas.
But we're also assuming
I'm
assuming that Tuilangi is the guy that needs replacing. So what happens if it's Farrell?
Yeah.
What happens if Farrell gets injured? What are we doing?
I think Tio could play at 12. He did for the line. I'm thinking I did have
true,
JJ.
Actually. That's true.
I did have JJ there, but now I'm thinking Tio.
And if Ford got injured...
Tio did do that as well.
So if Ford got injured, Farrell moves to 10.
Can move Faz to 10, yeah.
And then play Tio Manu.
If Ford and Faz both got injured. But then Daly can play.
But I think if you're losing your 10 and your 12 in one game, the whole whatever your game plan goes out the window, and you're now it's your survival mode, aren't you? So that's you can't plan for that because you've only got 7 subs.
8
subs. What did I say?
7.
You misheard me, mate. You misheard me.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Tio.
I think Tio. I just think JJ's Autumn International Series for me leaves question marks that perhaps weren't there 6-12 months ago. And as a result, I think Ben Teo, a Lion and a successful Lion. He did a great job out there.
Yeah, he really did.
We know he can play 12. We know he can play 13. Yeah, I want it. I think we've just got our World Cup squad, our World Cup match day squad to play in the final against New Zealand in 2017.
Yes. Yeah.
I almost feel like we should now go somewhere, treat it like a match day, and actually do a I don't know, we'll pull up the last time England beat New Zealand. Obviously, last time they played New Zealand, they beat them, didn't they?
No.
Did we lose?
Yeah, we lost last time.
When was
we played them because don't forget Johnny May scored that try, didn't he?
Oh,
we lost that match.
Okay, what was the
last time we beat them? Was 2012 when we ran a bit of riot. Do you remember when Manu took them apart?
Yeah, so maybe what we need to do is basically watch that game, pretend it's the World Cup final, do it next weekend, and do an episode like it's a match day episode.
That definitely will get a lot of listeners. People like listening to fantasy rugby matches, like a Dungeons and Dragons version of rugby. Yeah, well, mate, I'm happy to do one of that.
You're taking the piss, right? But guys, you obviously, if you're listening, get in touch with us on Twitter, okay, at England Rugby Pod, and tell me if you wouldn't be interested in having a match day style episode for the 2003 World Cup final. And
for those of you that do get in touch on Twitter, I hope your mum's basement is warm this time of year. But don't worry, I'm making that. I was trying to make some geek joke, but it kind of flew over my head, let alone everyone else's. So let's just move on.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So we've picked that squad. That's a good question. I enjoyed that.
That was a good question. More questions like that, please, people. Obviously, I would say more like that. There is only that one. I don't want to have we're not going to change it every week.
I feel like I've achieved something today.
Yeah, but definitely, guys, get in touch and challenge us to kind of come up with interesting things like this, because it's been quite fun.
And let's know your thoughts. Because I'm sure there's people out there listening being like, you morons, you're forgetting this guy, you're forgetting, I don't know, whoever, you're forgetting the Currys, or you're forgetting Andy Good, or whoever.
Andy Good will be saying, you morons, you're forgetting Andy Good.
Yeah. He's like, I haven't played for a while, but I'll give it a go.
And he's obviously listening because he's got to come up with some content for his rugby pod.
Well, exactly. Him and Big Jim. That's a good pod. I like that. Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
I don't know if you know this, mate, but Eddie Jones won an award recently.
No shit. What did he get?
Coach of the Year.
Oh, what? Rugby coach?
No, mate. Driving coach.
Driver. Okay. Wow, he's a good driver as well.
Just best coach driver.
Mate, that's awesome, hasn't it? It's been Steve Hansen who's just been monopolising that prize but rightly so.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone, including Steve Hansen, would deny him that, because what he's done with England is phenomenal. New Zealand have been doing what they've been doing for a long time. They've matched the record of England, but because they were so much further ahead, statistically, you have to kind of say, well, for England to have done the same thing as New Zealand, they have to have improved more than New Zealand. If you get me.
Yeah. No, I do get you.
So I think, statistically, it's right. Emotionally, it's right, because he's becoming a legend. He's going to get a knighthood at some point. Sir Eddie might just start. I think we should just start calling him that now. I think we should give him a knighthood.
Yeah. Let him win this World Cup for us. There's still. I love Eddie Jones, but there's still something that doesn't sit right in me in 19 and Aussie. But I do love Eddie Jones, and I think he's done an absolute phenomenal job. And
I mean, it is their queen
that is
too.
Such a deserved reward.
It is their queen too.
It is their queen too, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I think
I'm not saying, like, don't get me wrong. If an Aussie like finds a cure for a disease, absolutely give them a knighthood and things. I'm purely talking along rugby
Yeah.
I'm purely talking rugby terms.
So Eddie,
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree because, as far as I'm concerned, he's already got it. Neil,
if he wins World Cup, I'll knight him myself.
Neil, if we win the World Cup, you won't need to because he will get a knighthood. The whole point.
I think
the whole point.
Have less
the whole point of this little interlude is that he should get one now, regardless, because of what we know he's going to do.
A pre-knighthood, which we can take away.
Yeah, which we can take away. It's yours, but it's only yours until after the World Cup. If you win the World Cup, you can keep it. If not, back to Australia, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan, but no, that's what was the shame actually there, and I don't begrudge it. So, World Player of the Year, moving on to these awards, we had 2 England players in the running, Atoje and Farrell, and it went to Beauden Barrett, and it's just so hard to argue with that because he is an absolute quality player, and the way I think I knew that he deserved it is I'm a massively biased Englishman, and I'm a massive English rugby fan. And when I heard Beauden Barrett got it, I was like, oh yeah, fair enough. Like, I'd have preferred Atoje Farrell to get it, but the fact that I wasn't like, that's an outrage, which I probably would have done even if someone had been deserved. I think in my head shows that actually Beauden Barrett probably does deserve it. I mean, people will be like, oh, his kicking hasn't been brilliant, but everything else of his game is absolutely just... It's frightening how good that guy can be on sometimes.
Yeah, I think for me, Farrell would be next in line ahead of Marrow, and maybe Marrow gets the 3rd spot. But I think I'd have Owen Farrell as the closest on his heels. It's a bit like
I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah,
I just think at fly half you're controlling the game, so to be able to run a game, run your side, control the game, and I know that obviously Farrell's been playing 12, but as a sort of 10 standing a bit further out, really.
Tenter.
A tenter, exactly. So yeah, do you know what? The more I'm thinking, when you first said it, I was like, yeah, Beauden Barrett, and then now the more I'm thinking about it, I'm getting annoyed. I'm thinking, no, actually, I think Owen Farrell, England.
I think
England as a team,
think either of them are deserving.
Have had a better year.
Yeah, New Zealand have still not had a bad year.
No, they've not had a bad year, but England have had a better year, and Farrell has been the kind of the central pivot, central pivot, whatever, the kind of the main guy, the main man in there running things. I think he's actually quite unfortunate. So yeah, my initial thoughts were, yeah, makes sense, but actually I'm now leaning towards, I think Owen was unlucky.
Yeah, I think both are deserving winners, and the fact that Beauden Barrett's got it, I think fair enough. I mean, I don't, but I am a biased Englishman, and I'd love to have seen.
I begrudge him it.
Fair enough.
So there it is. That's probably we're kind of starting to just rabbit on now. So we should probably let people get back to their morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is, whenever you're listening to this, guys. But big thank you once again for listening. Big thanks to Cap TRJH for your question. Gave us something interesting to discuss. Hopefully made the episode more interesting one for you guys to listen to.
And that was a good one. Good man or woman, whatever that may be. Thank you for that.
So yeah, guys, keep those coming. If there's got anything else that you want us to talk about in one of our upcoming episodes, let us know. You can do that obviously by leaving us a review like Cap TRJH did, or you can get in touch with us on Twitter at England Rugby Pod. You can email us, englandrugbypod@gmail.com, and you can get in touch with us on the website, www.englandrugbypod.com. That's it, guys.
So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to apologise for what Andy's missed out here. The captain of our ship who steers us along these podcasts. So I thought I gave him a good opening for this, but obviously we're saying well done to Eddie. Guys, make sure you listen next week. We are doing an Eddie Jones special.
Ooh, yes. That is an important... you're right, I have completely forgotten. That is, bad, not bad on me. Eddie Jones special. It's going to be quite exciting to dig a little deeper into this man and find out where he's come from and how he's got to where he is now.
Yeah, there's a lot to him, guys. It's an interesting episode. I've already started looking into him and doing some bits, and Andy and I are going to be sitting down together and really trying to do a deep dive on the man. So, make sure you listen next week. Spread the word, guys, because it's him having just won World Rugby Coach of the Year. We think it's time that we honour the man ourselves, and we're going to do a special all about everything Eddie.
Absolutely. So yeah, that will be on Tuesday next week. Because of course now the autumn internationals are over, we'll get back to our regular schedule on Tuesdays. But this weekend, of course, the other thing is that England play Australia in the Rugby League World Cup final. We're not Rugby League experts. We did suggest we might try and cover it, but then Dan and I spoke about it in the week, and we kind of said, look, we don't know enough about Rugby League. We wouldn't do it justice. So we will watch it. We will report back on what happened, and fingers crossed, touch wood, and all that. There's a result, and something positive comes of it. But Australia are clear favourites. They are probably by far the strongest team in the world when it comes to rugby league. So it's a massive task they've got ahead of them, and I just think you've got to say it's amazing that they're there. They're there in the final. Anyway, and so massive congratulations on that. But yeah, sky's the limit, guys. It all comes down to one more day of rugby. So with any luck, you can do something a bit special, which would be a nice lead up to lead into the 2019 World Cup, when of course we expect the rugby union boys to do the same thing. So keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yeah, and anyway, guys, thanks very much for listening. As Andy said, my toad in my hole is in the oven, so I'm gonna make like Usain and bolt.
Yeah, that's not getting written down.
I quite like that.
Okay. Bye, guys.